All right, so here we are with number 14 on the constructor response. Each of these two diagrams here represents the same group of basketball players. We're going to try to answer each of these questions. Notice they don't give us the exact heights of each player, but we're going to have to use some clues from these two diagrams to determine that later in the problem. So first question is pretty easy. Based on the two displays, what is the range of the heights? So all we need to know there is the definition of range as the max minus the min, okay? And both of those values can be found in the box plot. So it looks like our max is 86 and our min is 72. So 86 minus 72, all right, which would give us a range of 14 inches. Okay, part B is pretty easy too. Based on the two displays, what is the interquartile range? All right, again, that's information from the box plot. All right, and the interquartile range is going to be Q3, or the third quartile, minus Q1, okay, which is basically the size of the box, 77 to 83, it looks like. So I'll do 83 minus 77, and that gives me an interquartile range of 6 inches. And from here on out, this problem gets pretty tricky. So based on the two data displays, how many of the basketball players are 78 inches tall? In order to solve that, we have to figure out what the heights of each of the basketball players are. All right, so we're going to try to use some clues that we have here to determine that. So first off, the two values that we definitely know are the min and the max, right? We said that the min was 72 and the max was 86. We know that there's 8 basketball players total. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now let's talk about a couple other things that we know. Since there's an even number of numbers, that means our median of 78 has to be the average of the two middle numbers. Okay, so we go back down here. These two middle numbers, numbers 4 and 5, have to average to 78. Okay, the second thing that we know here, and third thing that we know with our quartiles, again, because there's an even number of numbers, that means the average of two numbers has to be 77, and the average of two numbers has to be 88, because there is not a true median of those two sets. Okay, so that first, that lower quartile is going to be found by, from those 4 pieces of data, so that means the middle 2 are what tell us the lower quartile, okay? And then your upper quartile is going to be found from these 4 pieces of data, okay? And there is no true median there, so it's going to be found from the average of those two, okay? So if we go back up here, our quartiles were 77 and 83. So we know that these two numbers here have to average to 83, and that these two numbers here have to average to 77. So now the histogram comes into play, okay? Because we have these ranges of numbers here. All right, so first of all, in the first block of the histogram, 72 to 74 range, there is only one number, and we have that. That's the minimum, so that one's taken care of. Okay. In the last block there, 86 is one of these two numbers. Okay, so we have another number to spend there between 84 and 86. All right, but we don't know what that is yet. Okay, 78 to 80, we have 4 numbers. Okay, 4 numbers from 78 to 80. Okay, so that's going to help us find this median. That means basically that if our median is 78, okay, 2 of these 2 numbers here are both going to have to be 78s. Okay, because that's the lowest one we can possibly have. Now, when we figure out what those other 2 numbers are in there, because the middle 4 have to be between 78 and 80, we're going to have a third 78. Okay, so that third 78 is going to be on the lower side of this. All right, because over here, that 78 isn't going to be able to average to make 83. It's 5 away. 83 plus 5 is 88, and that's off the scale of what we have. Okay, now if we look at this and try to figure out what numbers can we get to here to find this, all right, so let's see, 80 is the highest we can go, so 80 and 86 would have to average for 83, so that pretty much locks in these 2 numbers. Okay, and then down here at the bottom, if we're averaging to 77, that's 1 away from 78, so that means this number has to be 76. Does that fit our histogram? Yes, because we have one number between 75 and 77. So a little bit of work there and a little bit of thought to figure out what the heights of all 8 basketball players are. Now we can answer the question, how many players are 78 inches tall? There's going to have to be 3 players, 78 inches tall. And the last question, based on the 2 data displays, what is the mean of the heights? So in that particular case, we're adding those 8 numbers up and dividing by 8 to get our average. So I'm going to jump out here to my calculator. All right, and I have 72 plus 76 plus 78 plus 78 plus 78 plus 80 plus 86 plus 86. Is that 8 numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Enter. Divide that by 8, and I'm going to get an average of 79.25. Okay, they don't give us any rounding rules here, so I would say just write it as it is. Okay, so 79.25, and that's how you do number 14.